Hey guys, welcome back. This is a little different from my usual videos, but it's a topic I'm passionate about, and I'm really hoping this video may help other people who have dogs with this condition. Megaesophagus is an enlargement of the esophagus, a muscular tube connecting the throat to the stomach, with a decrease to absent motility, which is required for moving food and liquid down to the stomach. Some dogs are born with this condition, others, like my dog, acquire it later in life. The main symptom of this condition is regurgitation and vomiting, coughing, extreme hunger, and weight loss. The dog is not able to take food and regurgitates almost every meal. Instead of going into the dog's stomach, the food gets stuck in pockets of the enlarged esophagus, irritating the dog, causing vomiting and coughing. It is most important that dogs with compromised feed intake are meeting their daily nutritional requirements. The dog must eat in a standing upright position and must remain standing for about 10 to 15 minutes after each meal in order to pass the food to the stomach using only gravity. This requires a lifelong therapy, patience, and commitment from the owner. Jimmy was born a healthy pup back in 2010 and remained pretty much healthy for the first 5 years, eating and living normally. In his 5th year, he started showing symptoms of this condition, first by excessive coughing and snoring, even when he's awake, but the snoring sounds were actually him having trouble breathing because of food being stuck in his esophagus, putting pressure on his trachea and lungs. Soon after, he started vomiting all his food and rapidly losing weight. In 6 months, he went from a healthy 5 kilograms to 3 kilograms. After many visits to the local vets, he was finally diagnosed with this condition. We were instructed to check in to a veterinary institute for surgery. Unfortunately, when the surgeon opened him up, he saw that his main arteries were entangled and attached to his esophagus, and the surgery was unsuccessful. We were told that his prognosis was very bad. We were to feed him only liquid food, but he does not have long to live because all the constant vomiting would cause him to slowly lose too much weight and eventually die. The only food he could eat had to be liquefied, blenderized slurries. He had to be fed standing upright every 2 hours, eating only 15 tablespoons of liquefied dog food, and even then he would regurgitate more than half of what he ate. Even with all the commitment and patience we put into his therapy, he was losing the battle, losing even more weight, going all the way down to 2 kilograms. He was skin and bones, too weak even to jump over the doorstep when going outside, spending most of his day sleeping. Due to extreme weight loss, he lost all the hair on his tail and started to lose hair on his ear. Seeing him constantly getting worse despite all our efforts, I had an idea. What if we could automate his feeding? What if we could build a machine that could be finely tuned to his eating requirements? Now, having a father who's an expert in electromechanical engineering all his life, I asked him for help. The machine would have to be able to feed the dog every 2 hours, exactly 15 tablespoons of liquid food. It would have to feed him very slowly so his esophagus wouldn't fill up and cause vomiting. It would have to keep him in an upright position, it would have to keep him standing 15 minutes after each meal, and it would have to be fully automated so he could be fed even when I'm at work or absent from home for other reasons. It would have to stop dispensing food if the dog walks away so the food wouldn't spill and cause a mess, and resume feeding if the dog returns. After 6 months of hard work, we were able to create a fully functioning automatic dog feeder for this condition. This is the electromechanical subassembly for the dog feeder. It contains mostly off-the-shelf components. On the top is the bowl of a regular blender used as a food container. It is modified to be able to mix the food to prevent settling of solid food on the bottom and water rising to the top. In addition to mixing, it is also modified to be able to circulate the food back into itself, so the food is always the same consistency. This is a holder that holds the bowl so the dog cannot accidentally knock the bowl over. The bottom part of the blender is not used. Instead, here is a custom-made part that connects the much slower DC motor that runs the mixer, so the food cannot settle on the bottom. The blades from the blender are replaced with this machined part that only mixes the food. On the top left is a bell from a modified regular doorbell, which is used to call the dog before the feeding cycle begins. Below that is the food bowl, which is very small because dogs with this condition can only eat tablespoon amounts of food at a time without vomiting. The idea of this feeder is to dispense only 1 tablespoon of food every minute for 15 minutes. After that cycle, the machine drips only a few drops of food every minute for another 15 minutes to keep the dog interested in remaining in an upright position after eating. After that, the machine waits for an hour and a half and starts the feeding cycle again. In this way, the dog is effectively being fed every 2 hours during the day, and after a selected number of feedings, the machine stops for the night. It can also be set up in a feed-on-demand mode, so the machine dispenses a preset amount of dispenses when the dog comes on his own. It also has a preset delay time, so the dog cannot come too often because too much food can induce vomiting. On the bottom is an off-the-shelf peristaltic pump, which can be adjusted to dispense exact amounts of food, in this case a tablespoon or a few drops every minute. On the right are 2 motorized valves. One is used for food dispensing and the other is used to cycle the food that has settled on the bottom of the mixer bowl back into the mixer before each feeding cycle. On the bottom left is an optical sensor that detects whether the dog is present, so the machine doesn't dispense food if the dog is away and makes a big mess. If during the feeding cycle the dog for some reason walks away from the machine waits for the dog to come back and resumes feeding. If the dog is away for more than 10 minutes, the feeding cycle stops and the machine starts a countdown to the next feeding cycle, which automatically begins after 2 hours have passed from the start of the previous feeding. If some overflow does occur, there is a tray under the feeding bowl which protects the peristaltic pump from becoming dirty with dog food. This is the controller unit of the dog feeder. On the main PCB is a PIC 18F46K22. The reason for this larger PIC controller is that the program is quite large due to the fact that none of the values used are hard-coded. All the values for the feeder are variables, so that every aspect of feeding, such as food amount, drip amount, number of dispenses, number of feedings per day, and so on, can be finely tuned and adjusted to the dog's feeding requirements. They are saved in EEPROM, so the values will not be lost in case of power failure or simply disconnecting the machine. There are also 2 DC to DC converters for power requirements. 5 volts is used for the main board and the LCD screen, and 3.3 volts is used for the optical sensor. The buttons on the top are used for setup and adjusting all the parameters for feeding. The big resistors you see on the right are current limiters for the mixer, the peristaltic pump, and for the bell. All the connectors on the back are different, so you cannot plug the wrong cable into the wrong socket. Also, there is an emergency stop switch in the back that immediately disconnects power to the feeder if anything goes wrong. In addition to the feeding programs, the machine also has a cleaning program to clean the pipes with water in the evening to keep the machine clean and sanitary, and there's a user-friendly setup mode to adjust all the parameters, so if the dog's condition changes, you can adjust the feeding accordingly. When we made this dog feeder in September, we were hoping to reduce the amount of vomiting and make the dog's life a little easier, but the results were astonishing. In the first month, the dog gained a kilogram, and in only 3 months, he is back to his normal healthy weight of 5 kilograms. In these 3 months, he has not vomited his food even once. He got his energy back, he is no longer hungry, and he is a very happy dog, back to his usual self. He spends most of his day jumping around and playing with his toys. All the hair he lost on his tail and ear are growing back, and we just couldn't be happier. We thought there would be a lot of training involved, but the dog learned how to use this in a matter of minutes. This has saved my dog's life, and I'm really hoping this video can help other dog owners help their dogs with this condition. As always, thank you for watching, don't forget to like and subscribe, and see you in the next one. Hey, thanks for watching. Hope you liked it. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe. Also check out these other cool videos and check out our website. If you want to help support this channel, you can do so on our Patreon page. Links are in the description, and I'll see you in the next one.